What's up, guys, and welcome to OneTake. Tonight, we are talking about Westworld Season 3, just premiered a few hours ago. We're going to break it down for you. I'm Gil. I'm here with my brother, Alon.
Yo.
And let's just jump into it. But before we talk about Season 3, brief thoughts on Season 2. Alon, you and I watched virtually all of Season 2 today, trying to catch up for the premiere. And I think it's fair to say, overall, we weren't huge fans of it.
No.
It's sort we won't go too deep into that, but it just felt super convoluted. The time jumps felt kind of unnecessary. It felt like they were only there because they were there in season 1, and they felt like they had to bring that familiar element back. And probably the biggest problem, there were really characters I cared about. There were very few sympathetic characters. I think they tried to make the host, but after watching them massacre a bunch of people in the first episode or two, no matter what they did, I just couldn't get behind them. So there was nobody for me to latch on to, no one I really cared about. The plot was so complicated and convoluted, so it never quite clicked for me, even though there were points here and there that I enjoyed. Owen, anything you'd add to that? Thoughts on Season 2 before we jump into the Season 3 premiere?
No, I mostly just agreed with you. Super convoluted. I wasn't a fan of all the time jumps. Super hard to follow, and I didn't really care to follow it. They didn't really hold my interest.
Right. We almost jumped ship a couple of times, but we held strong, and all day I had faith. I was telling Alon, don't worry, the Season 3 premiere is going to be great. It's going to make all of this worthwhile. So we just finished watching the Season 3 premiere, and Alon, high-level overall impressions.
I was actually impressed. It mainly because it felt way different than season 2. It kind of felt like a brand new show with elements from Westworld, which I'm kind of intrigued by.
It felt sort of like a sequel show, and like you said, to me it felt kind of like a reboot. A few of the familiar characters came back, but were in a totally new environment, new characters. It felt very streamlined. We didn't have the time jumps. I don't know if they're going to come into play later, but so far it's been pretty sequential. We're going from A to B to C. It's got a whole new tone, too. I mean, the visual style of the show looks a little bit different. The score is different. To me, overall, the show felt sort of like Blade Runner with maybe a little bit of Black Mirror injected. And how do you get a sympathetic character into this show? Easy. Throw Jesse Pinkman in there. And I love the Aaron Paul character. And I think that's a great place to start talking about the Season 3, Episode 1, titled Parce Domine. So Aaron Paul plays a character named Caleb, kind of a down-on-his-luck guy dealing with the future. He's in LA, and he's got to deal with working next to robots. He's trying to get a job. And immediately, I'm invested in this character because you see somebody who appears to be overall a good guy. We see he's struggling. We pretty early on see some flashbacks. He appears to be some kind of a war vet. So already, a few minutes into the episode, there's somebody I care about. And I'm so happy. I mean, I've said it a couple times already, but they gave me something to latch onto this season, about a person that I actually care what happens to him. I also just, through this character, we got a few glimpses at the broader world of technology in the Westworld world, right? We're out of the park now. So a couple things we saw. Number one, Francis. We keep seeing him get phone calls from Francis. I think throughout the episode, we learned Francis is a friend of his, somebody he served with. And I think by the end, it's all but confirmed that this is an AI recreation of a friend of his who died, I'm presuming in a war or in the line of duty, and this is meant to be a form of therapy. Because when he's talking to that therapist, they basically ask him, are you picking up his calls? And it appears to be part of this rehabilitation program.
Yeah, and I think in one of the flashbacks, they actually showed his friend with a big wound in his body, and I think that was meant to be the when he passed.
Right, we basically see him die, and it happens in the final moments of the episode, or towards the end of the episode, when Caleb is talking to Francis, and Francis says, I've been thinking about it. You said the game is rigged, but you got to play the game so you have a chance to win. And Cal is what he kind of goes by in the episode, calls him out on it. He says, that's not what you thought. You said exactly the opposite. And then you see a flashback to exactly what you said, the moment where Francis dies. And when Cal says unsubscribe and he looks really upset, that's the most emotion that I've felt watching Westworld probably since season 1. And to me, that is showing us how great a character Cal is. And I think how much they learned coming into season 3 and how to improve on what they had in the first couple of seasons. Also, like I mentioned, this Francis situation was just one example of exploring the technology in this new world, and I hope we see more of that. This is where it felt a little bit like Black Mirror to me. We're in a Blade Runner-esque world, and you get almost these subplots. I could easily see an episode of Black Mirror where they recreate a dead person that mattered to you using AI. In fact, there was a Black Mirror episode about that, actually. Another example we see of technology in this world is Rico. So this is the app that Cal uses to basically commit petty crimes. You open up the app, and it lists out a bunch of crimes you can get involved in. He has a rule, though. He doesn't do any personals. What did you take that to mean in this episode?
So my impression might be wrong, but it felt like it means he doesn't want to be directly involved with the crime, like the final outcome of the crime itself. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't want to deal with the final person that a package is being delivered to, or he doesn't want to be involved with some person that needs to be taken care of. He just wants to be part of the in-between step.
Exact. I think that's exactly right. He doesn't want to take any crimes that involve a human that is the victim or the subject of the crime, or at least he doesn't want to be involved directly in that part of it. Mm-hmm. So primarily, he picks stuff up and moves them from one location to another, and that's a reason why he's not doing very well with the app. He's only making a little bit of money. They bring up a couple of times that he doesn't have a lot of points. He hangs out with those two people, and that one guy wears the sweatshirt.
I love that shirt. It changes based on his mood.
It was awesome, right? The top word, I think, is amused, and it's lit up at all times. And then when he gets into a fight with that guy, you see the word anger lit up, and you realize what that shirt's doing.
He must be happy, though. Amuse is lit up a lot of the time.
I think he might also be high a lot of the time, which is helping. So that's another little glimpse at the technology. And I mean, that's a good spot to just mention overall. We are seeing so much of the outside world. And I think this is part of why they took a couple years off between seasons. They designed a whole world for us to see. And you said in the middle of the episode, are they going to have the same budget for every episode after this?
I hope so. You know, I knew this took place in the future, but I didn't realize how much in the future. I think I didn't expect.
We're in 2058, I think.
Oh, all right. So we're almost there.
Yeah, exactly.
Within our lifetime.
And Greg B in the chat says, wait, Westworld is based on a futuristic amusement park. What? Well, Greg B, we're not in the park anymore. So if you watch season 3, that's one of the most exciting things about this episode is that they left the park. And we're seeing a futuristic LA. We got glimpses of China. And I hope we stay out of the park for most of the season. Because it'll be hard. One of the things I was wondering going into this season is, are they really going to bring the park back? It's kind of like Jurassic Park. Once that goes wrong, it feels pretty far-fetched to say people are going to give this whole Jurassic Park thing another go. So I was wondering if they were going to come up with some ridiculous explanation to say, you know what? We promise it's safe this time. We're going to reopen the park. And then what? Is this going to go wrong again? So we're out of the park in episode 1, and I hope we stay out of the park. So going back to Cal for a bit. So the Rico app, that's how he's making money. He's trying to stay out of trouble, though. He's not doing any personals, as he points out a few times in the episode. Another little tidbit that gets dropped. So he goes to, eventually his storyline collides with Dolores's, where Insight, the group that she's working with or trying to work with, they are receiving a package. And when Cal gets there, a guy puts a gun to his head. And he says, you're not the first man to point a gun to my head. He's like, well, I'm going to be the first. Pull a trigger, shoot you in the head. Someone beat you to that too. So as if this character wasn't interesting and sympathetic and awesome enough, apparently he's been shot in the head and he survived.
It's
Which
an
I
awesome
love.
backstory. Like I'm really invested in this character. I can't wait to watch next week and see what else there is to it.
Right. In last season, anytime they showed us flashbacks to a character, I was like, I don't care about this character. But already, I want to learn more about this guy.
Especially because last season, half the characters were just psychopathic murderers.
Right. And Greg B in the chat says, well, Breaking Bad was good and has a weird plot with a teacher and meth. So I might give it a try. I don't know. Well, if you want to give Westworld a try, I will just warn you. It's one of those shows, season 1, great. Season 2 is pretty rough. Would you tell someone if they haven't watched the show before, can they just jump into season 3, skip 1 and 2?
Well, from what I've seen so far, yeah, I guess just give them the gist about what Dolores is about.
Right. Read a couple Wikipedia articles and then jump into season 3.
Oh, I think it's worth watching season.
That's true. I like season 1. Anyway, back on Cal, he mentions serving together with Francis. So did you read that as they served in some kind of a war together? Were they mercenaries? The one shot we see of them, they're on a roof somewhere. It looked like a city landscape. I didn't see that and think war.
Don't remember that specific scene, but I do remember them wearing army outfits.
Mm-hmm.
So I just assumed.
It makes you wonder what war is like in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I would assume a lot of robots are involved. And they served some time ago, but it couldn't have been that long ago. It's not like this character is super old.
Yeah.
So I get maybe this was the last war involving humans before robots got involved. Maybe wars are still being fought by humans, but it just made me wonder, what is war like in this world in 2058? And that's another piece of his backstory I'm curious about. So he bumps into Dolores at the end of the episode. He sees that she's been shot, she's hurt. He runs over to help her, and that's kind of where the episode ends. So I'm worried for Cal because I wonder how Dolores is going to react to him. Is she going to pull him into her plot, which we're just sort of learning about and what she's trying to do here? And I don't know, any speculation on what's going to happen here?
Well, he's definitely going to get pulled into the plot. But,
That's the last we saw of Cal. Aaron Paul did a great job in this one episode he's in.
Yeah, but my feeling is that based on what the last we've seen of Dolores' personality is, she's going to try to manipulate him somehow. But I don't know. When we'll see. Obviously, Aaron Paul's character, Cal, has been through a lot, so maybe he won't care enough to not get involved. And he's like, screw it. Let's see what this chick's about.
He is also pretty down on the system right now. That's exactly what he said to Francis. He hates this system. I think he said something about Francis wanting to take the system down. I have to revisit that scene again. But we know he's not happy with the way things are in society right now.
Yeah, and he's clearly looking for trouble, especially the way the guy had the gun in his face and he refused to move.
Right.
He seems like he's looking for something.
He's looking for something. That's, I think, what Dolores is going to use to manipulate him. And I have a feeling that this season we're going to see this push-pull for Cal, where is he going to be corrupted by Dolores, or is he going to remain the pure soul that he is, or at least what I think he is based off the 20 minutes we saw of him in this episode, a lot like the Jesse Pinkman storyline. Will he be corrupt? Will he be a good person? And that's a really interesting thing. It's a really interesting plot to follow in this episode. Greg in the chat asks, are you more of a Chevy or Ford guy, Gil? I'm glad you asked. By default, I'm more of a Chevy guy because the one car I drove was a Chevy. I drove that car hundreds, thousands of miles. So there you go. What about you, Greg? Ford or Chevy guy? So anything else on the Cal character?
No. Interesting guy.
Awesome. Well, let's go to Bernard. Speaking of interesting guy. In season 2, I hated this character.
Yeah. The bumbling fool the entire season. He was just confused all the time.
Right. And it was just so frustrating to watch. He had no agency, and I just didn't love the character. But let's not dwell on that. This season, again, they've corrected the things I didn't like in season 2. He's got a new look, big Max Payne 3 style beard. He's in a new location. He seems to be working in a farm or butcher type of place. And he's on the run. So he's in an interesting situation. He's a fugitive. He's on the run. And there's this great scene where he's essentially talking to himself, right? He has this little button he can press that seems to turn on this other personality that's buried inside himself. It was sort of like in seasons 1 and 2, where they would put one of the hosts into analyze mode, and they can ask any question and get a pure, honest answer. So he asks himself, has anyone modified your code? No. Have you had any contact with Dolores? No. You ever lie to me? No, of course not. And it's just immediately, I'm way more into this character. So he gets discovered, and he has to go back on the run. But what's awesome is that when these two guys are cattle prodding him, beating him up, and they basically want money because they now know who he is, Bernard pleads with himself. He says, just don't hurt them too badly. Hits the button, activates that other personality, fights them, beats him up, and then he goes back on the run.
Looks like he gave himself some upgrades.
Yeah, I don't know what happened here. Did he give himself these upgrades? Is this something Dolores did to him? I'm curious if we're going to see how he got here from where we left him in season 2.
Well, in season 1, we did see him do a little bit of damage. I forget that woman's name. She was like working like high up. He hit her head against the wall.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
He definitely had some strength and violence in him
He
before.
did, and that was always activated by somebody else, though. He never chose to do those things. Maybe he's taken that part of himself. He's gotten it under control. And it's awesome. It's another thing that's just super interesting. I wonder if it's going to turn into a Jekyll and Hyde situation.
That could be interesting.
Greg B in the chat says he's a Chevy. He has a Chevy, but he liked Ford too, to be honest. If he was getting diesel, he'd go Ford. And he hated Max Payne 3, returned it the day after he bought it. I never played it, but Max Payne 1 and 2 were great.
I played it for like an hour, and I enjoyed it, but obviously not enough to keep playing.
All right, so Max Payne did not follow the pattern of Westworld, where Season 3 seems to be great. Max Payne 3, at least according to Greg B., not that great. So, one last thing, though, on Bernard. Where is he going? He's going back on the run, and he says he's looking for Westworld. That you made a face just now.
It makes me a little nervous. I'm over Westworld. You can keep it as the title of the show, that's fine, but we don't need to see too much more of Westworld.
Yeah, I'm very worried about where they're going with this plot because I don't want them to feel like we have to go back to Westworld and go back to the park just because that's the name of the show and it was part of the first 2 seasons. If they can give me a legitimate reason that seems organic and it's interesting for why Bernard wants to go back there, okay, but I'm so skeptical.
Hopefully we're only going back there for 1 or 2 episodes, kind of like Shogun World in season 2.
Yeah. Well, my prediction is that this is his arc. This is the next 10 episodes, the next 9 episodes is going to be Bernard trying to get back there. Which I'm worried. I'm very worried about the story arc, but I don't know any speculation of why he might be trying to go back there.
I don't know. Maybe there's some answers he needs. I don't know.
I'm sick of answers. I'm sick of people trying to find answers. My only guess is that I imagine one of his first priorities is to stop Dolores. She basically said at the end of season 2, you're going to try and stop me. I think he is going to try and stop her.
Sorry, real quick. One thing about Dolores I don't get is she was like the ringleader of all the robots. Nobody knows what she looks like outside the park.
It could be a cover-up, but then again, why do they know what Bernard looks like? And maybe it's because Bernard is based off an actual human who existed.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them covering it up. I mean, they were all enclosed in a park. A lot of those people died. And the company that went in to take care of everything, they wouldn't want that information to get out.
And most of them got wiped out.
Yeah, so I could see it just being covered up.
Fine.
So I'm assuming Bernard wants to stop Dolores. Maybe he thinks there's something in Westworld that will help him do that. But I just have to wonder, why now? What's he been doing all this time? Maybe he's been waiting for the heat to die down, and for some reason he feels like, you know what, now is the right time for me to go back there, get something that will help me stop the upcoming robot uprising. I also just want to point out there was a funny part of the episode where Bernard makes a face and Alun turns to me and he goes, wow, a new facial expression.
Hey, he's showing more emotions than last season.
Right, after looking confused for 10 episodes, we finally saw something else. Greg B says, well, I'm going to let you stay on track with your Westworld show. Maybe I'll not be so random if I watch it and come back next live stream. Going to head out, got work in the morning. Greg, thank you for stopping by. Thanks for being a supporter. And hopefully our tastes intersect and you can be on a live stream and participate in the conversation. Have a good night. Anyway, moving on from Bernard, unless you have anything else to say about him.
Nope, just, again, happy to see he has more expressions other than confused.
Yes, more agency, and curious to see what he's up to, and hope that there's something interesting with Westworld. So let's talk about Dolores. The scene opens with her finding a guy who is involved with Insight, a company that's going to be very important this season, and she basically kills this guy. Now, she gives him a chance, though. So she straps a pair of sunglasses to the guy, which show him the memory of him killing his wife, his first wife, and it seems like she was going to let him live before she left, so she wanted information from Insight. This guy used to work there. He brought a bunch of confidential information with him, and she says, you're going to trade your life for that information. And then she's going to walk away, right? But he takes a swing with a bat at her, but it turns out it's just a projection of her. So he just kind of flies into his pool and whacks his head.
Oh, man, both of us reacted the exact same way when that happened.
Yeah.
Which was unexpected.
Another thing, we both reacted like, whoa, which didn't happen at all in season 2. It seems like they were able to build up the tension and hit us just the right way and got a reaction out of us. Now, one thing in this scene, I feel like they were trying to make Dolores more sympathetic.
Mm-hmm.
So season 2, like I said, I couldn't watch her. To me, she was a murdering psychopath. I hated her. And here they say, okay, don't worry. This guy's a scumbag. He killed his wife. Okay, I don't mind if something bad happens to him. And it seemed like she was going to let him live. Plus, she says, I only hurt people who hurt me. I think that was in this scene. I might be mixing up a couple of scenes. Either way, those first two are enough. So I think that they were, again, trying to right the ship a little bit and say, we can't have our audience hating one of our main characters. Let's tone down her psychopathic tendencies a little bit. And it worked.
Yep.
It worked on me. I loved it. So besides that, she's taken on the role of girlfriend for a guy who runs Insight, or at least somebody who's pretty important there. And we learn through her conversation with him that he does not run the database, which they call Rehoboam, I think Reho for short. This database, that we see it in a physical form, that big black globe with all the kind of red lights on it. We don't know a whole lot about it. Basically, we learn that this guy does not have control of the database. His father did, but before his father died, or after his father died, the partner took control, put somebody else in charge. It's a mystery. So that's Dolores' next task. She's got to find out who's controlling this database. Like I said, we don't know a lot about this database. I think the basics are it could develop strategies, develop perfect paths for everybody on the planet, is the impression I got. We also hear when the boyfriend, she's trying to get him to give up. What's the name of the guy who runs the database? He says, if I was going to give up that information, they would already know I was going to give it up and they'd kill me. So it seems like they can predict what people are going to do with this, which, without spoiling anything, this all feels so similar to another show that's on right now, which we're also covering on this channel. So what is Dolores' plan here? Obviously, she wants to get control of that database. Or at least I'm assuming that's what she wants to do. She says in vague terms, it'll give me a competitive advantage. I don't know, any thoughts? What's she trying to accomplish here?
I don't know. Last season, it ended with her wanting to kill pretty much all of humanity. So I don't know if that's still her plan. And this machine would definitely help with that plan.
Yeah,
if that is still her plan.
It would seem like it would all but guarantee her success if she had that device. She could wipe out humanity. She could take over the world. But I do wonder if that's still her plan. It doesn't seem like she's as willy-nilly about who she kills anymore. Like I said, it seemed like they were trying to make her more sympathetic here. I think I'm trying to remember where in the episode it happens, but I believe she says, actually, let me find it here. I've got it in my notes. Yeah, in the opening scene, she says, I only hurt people who hurt me. I think, where is this? Anyway, so I don't know if she's setting out to commit genocide on all of humanity anymore. But again, I wasn't really interested in her character in season 2. It seemed like she just wants to kill a bunch of people. And now I'm curious, what's she trying to do? So later in the episode, she has a run-in with some Insight folks. And she kills a bunch of them. That scene was awesome. When she was backing the car up and you see the guy in the rear view video.
Yeah, that was great. No, her and John Wick should team up.
Yeah, they would make a great team. I don't know if their plans would align exactly, but I just wanted to shout out that scene because, again, this season so far, firing on all cylinders. So the boyfriend's bodyguard, who appears to be more than a bodyguard, he knows a lot about what's going on there. He seems pretty personally invested. When the boyfriend suggests calling the police after they shock Dolores and knock her out, the guy says something along the lines of, I've been protecting this company's effing assets for 20 years. I'm going to call the police? Something like that. And Dolores catches up with him, though, kills all of his men, shoots him, and before he dies, she gets him to give up the name of the guy who runs the database. His name is ShurCast. When she asks, how do I find him? He says, you don't need to find him. He's probably already looking for you. And then she has a copy of that guy, an AI robot copy, kill him. And now she's got the name of the guy that runs the database, and she's one step closer to her goal. I don't know exactly what it is. And then right after that is when she runs into Cal, which we sort of talked about already. It is interesting to think about, how is Cal going to be useful to her? Because he seems like really all he could do for her is kind of grunt work. Like, I need you to go complete this task for me. And he's not connected in any way. It seems like so far she's done a great job of getting herself embedded in all these important positions. It's hard to imagine how he's going to be useful to her. So we'll see. Actually, one more thought on that. So she was hurt at the end of the episode. Yeah. In season 1 and 2, it didn't matter when they got hurt. They could just build a new body. I'm wondering if she is vulnerable for some reason right now. Does she have access to the machinery that can build new hosts? It seems like she definitely would, because her other copy is a CEO or again, very important person at the company that creates the hosts and owns Westworld. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, there's some questions there. In season 2, she was like a Terminator, just constantly getting shot and wouldn't even budge.
Yeah, exactly.
She didn't look like she was in pain. So unless she's pretending like she's in pain right now for some reason, but I don't see why she would.
Yeah, it would seem like she would pretend to be in pain because that would help her manipulate Cal. He feels bad for her. He wants to help her. But I think we saw her hunched over in pain before he saw her. So there's something interesting going on there.
Yeah. Hopefully we learn more.
Yeah. I know, as we're talking about it, just more thoughts are occurring to me. I wonder if the copies she's creating are more independent than we realized. Mm-hmm. Each copy is its own entity that wants to live. So maybe she's created this second Dolores, which I think has a fake name, Laura or something. And maybe this Laura wants to live and doesn't want to die and has its own agency. Because you would think with her philosophy coming out of season 2, where they were treated like just machines, and now they want to be treated as real beings with self-awareness. Yeah.
They're bringing up a lot of questions this season that I really hope they answer. For instance, there's 2 copies of her walking around now, right? The one posing as the board member or CEO, Dulles. And then the one going around killing these people.
Yeah.
So, like, how's that work? Is she in both places at once?
Right.
I want to know.
Or is it more along the lines of what I'm suggesting, which is maybe they are their own
Right.
independent beings that dying to them is a problem. They don't think to themselves, "Oh, I'll just reboot." But maybe we'll learn more. I hope. That is most of what happened in this episode. Before we get to the post-credit sequence, just any other final thoughts on season 3, episode 1?
This world looks really cool. I would love to see more of the tech and AI that it's filled with.
Yeah, and I don't know if we mentioned it already, the score for this episode.
Yeah.
Just going along with the whole new tone, the score feels a lot less like the previous 2 seasons where it was a lot of piano, a lot of taking songs we know and turning them into a more Western sounding theme. Here it sounded more synth, more Blade Runner-esque, and it fit the environment and fit the tone, and I love it. So for those of you that missed it, and we missed it on the original viewing and then went back and fast forwarded, there is a post-credit sequence here, like every Marvel movie nowadays. So we see Maeve wake up in a red dress holding a gun. He walks into the other room and sees a guy tied up, takes the what would you call that?
I forget what it looked like.
His mouth is tied shut. The gag, basically. And he begins speaking German, and he's scared. He's tied to a chair. She sees bloodied knuckles, so clearly she was the one interrogating him. Then she looks out the window and sees she's in World War II, and there's Nazis running around. So your immediate reaction when you saw this post-credit sequence?
Well, as soon as I heard the German, I anyway, yeah, no, I'm very curious about this world. Is happening now? Probably.
Or did she time travel back to? Or do we find out that Dulles Corporation has been active since World War II? This is an early model. Probably not. I sincerely hope that's not where they're going.
I don't know.
This.
I wonder if Dolores is messing with her or something. I mean, wouldn't she be the? And she would probably be involved in her somehow getting there. Well, I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't know, because was Maeve left behind when Dolores left?
Yeah, she was shot in the chest and dead for some reason.
Right.
Her head was intact.
Well, her head was intact, so that's how they were able to presumably make her a new body, and somebody stuck her here. I'm assuming this is another park. If you were creating fake environments that people could go visit, a lot of people, I think, would be down for a World War II. Let me be part of the battle. People love the Call of Duty games.
What would they call this one? World War II World?
World II? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why she's there. Now, one thought that occurred to me, could this be a competitor? Could there be, maybe Dulles isn't the only ones that are making these parks? I don't know. I can't imagine any reason why they would still have one of their parks functioning unless this is part of their, I don't know, they're going to try and relaunch their rebranding. Don't worry, it's much safer now. We're not in the West anymore. Now you're in World War II.
Yeah, from the look in Maeve's eyes, it looks like she just gained free will again. So I have a feeling some bad things are going to happen.
Right. It seemed like she was active. Like we said, she had bloodied knuckles. So she was doing something. And then she woke up. So it seems like this character was already in motion. And now her current consciousness is woken there. Now, maybe this World War II stuff has been going on the entire time. There was a copy of Maeve over there in season 1 and season 2, and we just didn't see it. And really the only change now is the aware and conscious Maeve has just been downloaded into that automaton Maeve. And maybe it's just sort of a forgotten park. Everything went to hell in the Japanese world, in the Westworld. They've been cleaning all that stuff up, and they just haven't gotten to World War II world yet. Maybe. Or, considering this show loves to have the parallel timelines, maybe this really is taking place at a later date or an earlier date. We don't know. I'm intrigued, though. I'm worried, but I'm intrigued. Any hint at a park worries me because I just don't want a retread of anything we saw in season 1 or 2. And it's just really hard for me to imagine how you get back to the park without it being super far-fetched.
Yeah, and a World War II park just sounds like a bad idea.
Especially in the politically correct climate we currently live in, it just seems like any product that involves Nazi regalia just seems like a bad idea.
I also feel like anyone that wants to go hang out there would probably be judged for that.
I don't know about that. I mean, don't you pick up a Call of Duty game? You're like, I want to blow away some Nazis.
That's true.
Depends which side you choose.
Yeah,
that's what matters.
Actually, I could see myself doing that.
All right,
Gonna
there you
blow
go.
up some Nazis.
On that note, any other final thoughts on season 3, episode 1, Westworld?
Well, just again about that last part, I'm looking forward to seeing some dead Nazis.
Yeah.
And more of that futuristic world.
Yeah, same here. I love everything we saw about this futuristic world. It seems like they put a lot of effort into designing it in a way that feels organic. Great world building. Love the score. Love the Cal character. Love the new and improved Bernard. I'd say the Dolores storyline is the one I'm least interested in of those 3, but I am intrigued and I'm curious to see where it's going. So I think with that, we can wrap it up. So thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and of course, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you get notified whenever we do more videos and get notified the next time we do a live stream. Next time, we're going to probably try and start it before 1 a.m. so there's more people around that can join and get involved in the chat. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next OneTake.